The MFDP didn't refuse to compromise. It was they didn't like the compromise that was being offered. Now what happens is Mrs. Hamer, Bob Moses, Ed King, I forget, a whole group were in Hubert Humphrey's hotel suite, I think, and they're discussing with Humphrey this challenge, and Humphrey's trying to persuade them to back down. And the way Bob tells it, there's a knock on the door and somebody yells in, "Turn on the television," and they turn on the television, and there's Walter Mondale announcing this compromise. There's been no discussion with the MFDP. This is a deal he's worked out with whomever, and he's on television now announcing, here's the compromise with the MFDP, and the compromise was the MFDP would get 2 seats, and then he went on, and this is what really ticked off the Mississippi Freedom Democratic. Then he goes on to announce who would occupy those 2 seats. Ed King, chaplain from Tougaloo, Mississippi, Tougaloo College, who was white and from Natchez, and Aaron Henry, the head of COFO and the head of the NACP. So people were ticked off not only at the number, but just that they would presume to even say, we'll tell you who can occupy those 2 seats. So there's a big meeting. There's a big meeting after this announcement. Bob gets mad. He storms out of the room. There's a big meeting that evening to discuss this compromise. And tremendous pressure is put on the Mississippi Freedom Democrats to accept the compromise. Bayard Rustin is there, Martin King is there, Roy Wilkins of the NACP is there. All of the whole hierarchy of the civil rights establishment is there. And then you have this Mississippi delegation. They're all preaching to this Mississippi delegation about how good this is and how they don't understand how much they've won, and how, thank you very much for what you've done, we'll take it from here. And to their credit, this group just resists it. I mean, there was temptation. I know there were a few people who wanted to accept it. Mrs. Hamer kept them in line. Actually, the 3 strongest people in the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party were 3 women. Fannie Lou Hamer from the Delta, Annie Devine from Canton, Mississippi, and Vicki Gray from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. They kept all these guys in line, as Mrs. Hamer put it at the convention, responding to a question. We didn't come all this way for no 2 seats. So it's a weird moment in which the MFDP's stance gets totally distorted. They say these people are just pawns of SNCC, this radical organization of young people. At the same time, they say these people are too ignorant to even know what they've won. And at the same time, they say, well, the object of a protest is to make your issue visible. You've done that with no understanding of the fact these people weren't there to protest. They were there to get seated. But in the final analysis, it was politics. You know, what Lyndon Johnson wanted was going to prevail. There's very little likelihood that a little group from Mississippi of 68 people is going to be able to successfully challenge that sort of power. So in the final analysis, the MFDP challenge was defeated in 1964 by the power of the White House.